Hello guys, Namaste, welcome back to my channel. This is Amisha Singh Chauhan if you're new here, and if you're looking for something fun, dark and mysterious, then you're at the right place. So do not forget to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell icon so that every time I'm here, you'll get to know about it. So, before I start off with today's video, two things. First, I'm so sorry about the crows. I have been waiting here for past 1 hour, sitting like this, but it hasn't stopped. And I don't think so it is going to. And by the way, I shoot at night, so it's probably 2 o'clock in the morning and they are going to anyway start chopping, whatever. Second thing is disclaimer. Yes, I have done videos previously that covered gruesome, cruel activities, but today's video has a lot of graphical content. I'm so sorry about that. And it could be triggering to a lot of you guys. You might get uncomfortable. So I totally accepted that if you don't want to continue with this video, you can back off right now. I respect your decision. This is my duty to warn you guys and give this disclaimer out. Today's video is about Junko Furuta. A lot of you guys might have heard about her, some of you haven't, and if you have already, I still suggest you to continue watching this video. So Junko Furuta was 17 years old when this incident took place with her. And I don't know how to properly frame this, but you'll understand the reason why. So she was 17 years old. She was born in 1971 and this incident took place in 1988 on 25th of November. She was a very brilliant student, a very good kid to her parents. She did part-time job. So she had this thing that after graduating from her high school, she wanted to go on a vacation, on a small trip, and she wanted to pay for it. Like, that is so cool, right? Now, the thing was that in her school, a lot of kids were into drugs, alcohol, smoking, the typical high school, college scenario, but she never got under peer pressure. And which was very uncanny and very uncool to get. Like, it's normal thing, I don't have to explain about it. Now, there was this another creature. His name is Hiroshi Miyano. So Hiroshi Miyano had a small crush on Junko Furuta. He was part of Yakuza gang slash mafia, whatever you want to call it, like a criminal group it was. And Yakuza was very famous for abduction, for theft, for rape, kidnapping, you name it, and they had done it already. And in that area, not only in that area, but in whole of Japan, people were scared of anyone who was linked to Yakuza. And even though Hiroshi Miyano was only 18 years old, people were still terrified of him because of his connections. Initially, we would find that Junko Furuta had no clue about his connections. So when Hiroshi Miyano approached her with the proposal of everything, a relationship, romantic relationship, she politely declined simply on the basis and the reason being that she was not interested in being committed or being in any sort of relationship that time. She was very focused on her career, on her education, and this was sort of a distraction for her. So she was very polite, she rejected it. But in like all of these stories, the guys, they just don't like being rejected and hearing the word no. Like, seriously, you guys, anywhere out there, you have to learn, be it a guy or a woman, you have to learn to accept no and rejection. So moving ahead, we don't have any physical proof or evidence directioning towards the part that the rejection was the reason for Hiroshi to do various cruel some stuffs to Junko Furuta. Like, there's no evidence. But during my research, I came across this a lot of times, so I just thought that I should share with you guys about this small incident of the crush in high school thing. So that was one part of it. Now the question comes is, what happened on 25th of November 1988? Like I said, Junko Furuta was doing a part-time job. She was working in this plastic factory twice a week, I guess. And that day was her day of working. So on her way home around 8:30 p.m. she was on her cycle. So she has no idea that something was already planned and was going to happen. With that I mean that coincidentally or for some reason, Hiroshi Miyano and his other friends were in that locality and they had already planned on abducting and raping a woman any woman. It was planned, it was going to be a gang rape, and this wasn't something that they hadn't done previously. They had done it a lot of times, they had experience, they knew how to get away with it, like obvious criminal background and everything. So what they planned was they incidentally saw Junko Furuta on her bicycle on her way home. So Hiroshi with his friend Joe Ogura, I hope I'm pronouncing the name right. All of them are Japanese obviously, and I don't watch anime much. I'm a K-drama fan, by the way. Why am I even mentioning that? Whatever. So he asked his friend Joe Ogura to push Junko Furuta off her bicycle, and then he would go over there and rescue her as some gentleman. And that is exactly what happened. Joe Ogura pushed her off her bicycle and fled away from that scene. And like a hero, Hiroshi Miyano enters the scenario under a pretense that he was coincidentally in that locality and asked her if he could walk her home. Like, who said chivalry was dead? Okay, whatever. Moving ahead, and like I said, he asked her if he could walk her home, and she said yes. She thought that it was dark and it would be helpful, so she said yes, and they are walking home. Now, when they come to the end of the street, he all of a sudden grabs her arm and pull her inside a warehouse, locks the door, and starts screaming at her that if she screams or utters a single word, he's going to kill her. And he started raping her right there, and she knew that she was helpless. She knew about, then she got to know obviously about his connections, and she knew about Yakuza, so she did not really wanted to get involved with them. So she was just there and couldn't do anything. And that does not stop there, trust me. So what he does next is he takes her to a hotel and he rapes her again a couple of times. Now, after that, he calls his friends. There were 3 friends of his, which were Joe Ogura, Watanabe Yasushi, and Minato Nobuharu. So these 3 people, they were together in this entire thing, like I said before, and he calls them around 3 o'clock in the morning and brags about his activities that he did with Junko Furuta. Now, his friends suggest that he should keep her so that even they could do the same thing with her. So what he does next is they plan this entire thing. They take her to a nearby park. From there, they go to Minato's house. Now, when I say Minato's house, it literally means Minato's house where his parents and his brother were living. Now, you would say that the parents didn't question about this girl in the house with all of his friends. Well, they did indeed question about her identity and everything, but they said that she was Hiroshi's girlfriend, and also the parents knew about Hiroshi Miyano's connection to Yakuza, so they did not point out or object to it. Also, the other reason being that their own son, Minato, was very violent towards them, so they were really scared and they just wanted to keep their distance and they did not say anything. This pretense, though, did not last long, because after some time, when these 4 people got to know about, like, they understood that, these parents, these guys are not going to complain or report it to the police. So they just stopped pretending that she was a girlfriend of someone and they were doing whatever they were doing. So on 27th of November, Junko Furuta's parents lodged a missing report of their daughter because she wasn't home from her job and they were really worried. So what happens next is that these people who abducted her, the 4 teenagers, they had gone through her backpack, to steal stuffs and everything, and they got her notebook. And in the notebook was her home address. So now they started threatening her that if she doesn't make a call to her parents saying that she literally flew away with her friend or someone or alone because she wanted happiness and she did it out of her happiness and her wish, they would kill her parents. So now she had to make a call to her mother, tell her that it was her decision to get away from them, get away from the house and go to some other place. And the parents, obviously, on her wish, took away the report. Now, it was a very sad scenario to imagine for Junko Furuta that now that she asked her own parents to take back the police report, she knew that no one was going to look for her, and it was kind of a downer. Not kind of a downer, it was obviously a downer. For next 44 days, she was raped more than 500 times and by over 100 men. And even when I'm saying that, I literally got that shiver inside me, and I can't even imagine that someone who was anywhere part of this could be still alive and had guts enough to face themselves in front of the mirror, whatever. So what happened is that during this 44 days, they made her eat cockroaches, a lot of insects. They even made her feed on her own feces and urine. And that wasn't it. They would make her lay on the floor, on that concrete floor, and drop barbells, like heavy barbells on her stomach. And this another time, they would make her lie on her stomach and they would jump on her back, like literally jump like a trampoline thing. Another instance was that they made her hang to the ceiling. I don't know, somehow, I don't know how they did it, but they did make her hang on the ceiling, and they used her body, like they used her as a punching bag. Now, there was a lot of sodomy included. I don't want to go into much details, even though I gave a disclaimer in the beginning, but I have my respect and I just don't want to make this more tough for you guys. It's already very heavy to imagine and have that scenarios going inside my head. So like I said, there was a lot of sodomy using fireworks, bottles like glass wine bottles, and they used to light up those fireworks inside her, and she had a lot of injuries. Her ribs were broken after the autopsy, obviously. They could all find this. Now, there was this one incident that she did try to escape from all of this. She got that right moment, right point in her life where these guys, they were just drunk, sleeping. So she quietly walks out of the door. Now, when I'm saying walks out of the door, just imagine the kind of pain and the kind of energy she would require to walk out, because after all that torture, it used to take her an hour, almost an hour, to go to the washroom, and she used to not even walk, she used to crawl on the floor because of obvious injuries. So she finds that right moment, walks downstairs and finds this telephone. She calls the police and is about to open her mouth and tell everything when Hiroshi Miyano just comes and grabs her from the back, drags her to the room. Now over there, what he does is, with his friends, he pours lighter fluid on her lower body and fires her up. So she's obviously burned, and this entire time they are kicking and punching and doing all kind of gruesome violent stuffs on her body. Now the police did call them back, and Hiroshi just, wavered it off, saying that it was a mistake, one of the kids in the family did it, so that just got settled. Now, during this 44 days, like I said, over 100 men raped her. So they were inviting a lot of their Yakuza friends and friends from school and stuff. Now there were two guys, specific guys, who are named in this case. One of them being Koichi Ihara. Now, these two guys, Koichi Ihara and the other guy, Tetsuo Nakamura, these guys were identified because their DNA could be found on her body. So Koichi Ihara was bullied into raping Junko Furuta, but in the end he did rape her, right? But his conscience wasn't playing well. On his way back home, he felt really guilty about his actions, so he goes and confesses about it to his brother. So his brother ends up telling his parents, and the parents report it to the police. So now two police officers are disposed of to go and investigate about this complaint. And when they go to the Minato's residence, over there the parents open the door and they start questioning them if there was any girl living in the house and stuffs like that. And then they told them about the complaint. And then they're like, no, there's no girl living in. You know what? You guys could come inside the house and check the residence if you have doubts or any kind of suspicion. Now, this invitation was sufficient enough for the police officers that, these guys are not lying because they invited us inside. And in the end, they didn't. And when this entire scenario is under jurisdiction, these two police officers do get a lot of hate and backcalling from the society. They get suspended from their job. Now imagine these two police officers could have really gone inside the house and checked the house. She might have been still alive. So on 4th of January 1989, these four guys decided to play Mahjong Solitaire, and they include Junko Furuta too. Now Junko Furuta being the brilliant girl, which is very unfortunate for her in this time. She plays the game and she wins. Now out of this rage and anger that they lost against a girl, they take out all that frustration and anger on her by pouring lighter fluid on her body. And obviously during this time, a lot of her wounds which were, closed up, they started reopening again. Also because they were kicking and punching her at the same time. So she was bleeding and there was a lot of pus on the floor and on their carpets, and they didn't want it to get that on their hands. So what they did was they wrapped her hands with this plastic and tied it with a sellotape and then started punching her. And she started having these seizures and convulsions. She used to always get them, but every time she got these convulsions, they thought that this is her drama and they would be more aggressive towards her. And the same thing they did this time as well. That day, she dies. The pain just ends for her. It takes her body and she dies because of trauma. Huge trauma. Though that time they had no idea that she was dead, 24 hours later, Minato's brother reported them that she was actually dead. And now these guys, they just did not want to get murder on their hands. So what they do is they put her in a 55-gallon drum and fill it up with wet cement, and then they dispatch it off in a place called Koto in Tokyo. And that is the reason why this case is also known as the concrete rape case or concrete encased high school girl rape case. Like, it's a huge name. So roughly a month later, these guys are arrested for investigation purpose of a double murder case by the police. Now, one thing that I missed out during this entire torture scenario was during December, because of a lot of injury on her body, she was less sexually appealing for these guys. So what they did was they went ahead and kidnapped another 19-year-old girl and gang raped her, but this time they let her go. They were going to be investigated for this case and for the double murder case. Now that double murder case, I don't have any information on it. There's no name mentioned, and that case till date remains unsolved. So these four guys are being investigated for this 19-year-old rape case and double murder case, but they have no idea about what case exactly are they being investigated on. Like, imagine how much crime they would have committed. So all of these four guys are being investigated separately and questioned. So when Hiroshi Miyano was getting questioned, the police officer started questioning him in certain manner and dropping hints that he knows about a certain murder case. So Hiroshi Miyano thinks that maybe Joe Ogura might have confessed about Junko Furuta's murder. So he starts telling them everything that they did to her. And he even mentioned the part where he put her in the drum and covered it up with wet cement and dispatched it off. And the police officer was shocked. He wasn't talking about Junko Furuta. Like, there was no case regarding her. So they were shocked, like, who is this Junko Furuta? What is this guy even saying? But as per his information, they do go out in this supposedly a barren land, which is now transformed into a park for her memorial and everything. So they go to that place, they do find a drum, and they find it filled with cement. The body did not look like a human being, but they could identify her only through her fingerprints. Obviously, the autopsy was done. She was even found pregnant. So now comes the jurisdiction part. So initially, this case was supposed to be run like a juvenile case, since all of these guys, they were all aged between 16 to 18 years of age. But because of the gruesome activity and the gruesome crime, the law decided that they are supposed to be jurisdicted and convicted like adults. Another thing that I have to mention about the jurisdiction and the law of this case in particular was that all the four perpetrators, they were trying to plead guilty not for murder but for committing injury on her that resulted in her death, not of murder. There's a huge difference. What happened in the end was Hiroshi Miyano was punished for 17 years of imprisonment, but then he appealed because he felt like the years he got was not something that he deserved according to his crime. He wanted lesser years, so the judge obviously went ahead and extended it for 3 years. In today's date, all of these perpetrators behind Junko Furuta's murder are free men. And one of these instances that I found out that one of the prison cellmate of Hiroshi Miyano said that he was bragging like this entire time he was in jail. He would obviously brag about it. And in fact, there was this incident that Joe Ogura's mother even went ahead and destroyed Junko Furuta's cemetery, her grave, because she believed that this girl ruined his son's life. Talk about humanity and kindness. So that was it for the jurisdiction part. Her funeral was conducted on 2nd of April 1989. A lot of her friends were over there. She was even given her graduation certificate. That's what she wanted. I hope that wherever Junko Furuta is, I just hope that she's in peace and she has her calm. So that's all for the day. Though there's one thing, yes, I remember. During my research, I could find a lot of pictures of Junko Furuta. I could not find a proper picture of these four perpetuators or any other perpetuators. Even the pictures that are available in the public domain are being blurred out or have been modified in a manner where we cannot find their true face or identity. And it is very sad. I've seen this in a lot of criminal cases where the victim's pictures is splashed all over the media, but you cannot find the pictures of the criminals because they deserve to have their anonymity. Why? My question is why? This is unfair and I am totally against it. That's all I have to say for it now. I hope you guys are doing well. Take care of yourself, enjoy, and bye bye. See you next time.